Hi student artists, so today we're going to learn the first part of how to turn your two-dimensional monster drawing into a sculpture. So obviously you have that drawing in front of you and you have to look at what kind of monster it is. So here we have a monster that the body and the head is pretty much all one. So with that, we're going to start as a pinch pot foundation. So if you remember from making a pinch pot previously, you have a rectangle piece of clay, and what you want to do is wedge that piece of clay onto your hard surface by just pounding it lightly, turning it until you get something that looks kind of like a rock in a way, an oddball shape. From there, you're going to either roll it onto your table to make it into a sphere, or you're going to roll it in your hands, and you can also pinch it in your hands until you get that baseball shape. Once you have that baseball shape, as you remember starting with the pinch pot, you're going to lay it on the table, take your thumb, and you're going to push it all the way in, as far down as you can go. Once you have that, the idea is to pinch and rotate. Pinch and rotate. And every time you do that, you're going to go a little bit deeper into the hole, and then you're going to start to even out the sides a little bit. Pinch and rotate, pinch and rotate. You could also go in the opposite direction. So I went clockwise first, now I'm going to go counterclockwise. And each time I pinch, I'm going to go deeper and deeper. So pinch and turn, pinch and turn. And you want to make sure that the sides start to get even in depth. You don't want one side too thin and then one side too thick. And then as you can see inside, I'm pressing down mindfully and going around, pressing down, going around. I don't want to create a hole in my project, but I want to go deeper and deeper. Now when I turn it sideways, it kind of looks like a short, fat pinch pot. But if we look at our monster here, you can see this monster is a little bit taller than this. So now I'm going to dig in deep with my thumb and start pushing out the top. And you can see that without breaking a hole there. And again, I could also pinch where those real thicker parts are. And now you can see my pinch pot, and it's almost turning into sort of like a dome, or if you want to think of it like a semicircle. Now I could take 2 fingers and a thumb, put them inside, and pinch and see where I need to just even out all that depth. And that's starting to look like the shape of the monster. Now you can see he has 5 hands or tentacles or legs, if you want to call it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how would I do that? Well, I'm going to pull out 5 areas very gently. And then I'm going to start squeezing them and pinching and pulling to make those little tentacles, I'm going to call them here. So I'm pinching and pulling gently, pinching and pulling, pushing in, pinching and pulling, pushing in, pinching and pushing, pulling in. And you can see these tentacles now starting to form. And obviously I would do smoothing as I'm going around. The clay is pretty moist because it's brand new, so it's a little easier to work with. But you kind of get the idea of getting this basic shape with that pinch pot foundation, making my little monster here. It's starting to look like that. Now, if I want to shape the head more in, I'm going to push and pull and pinch where I need to get that shape. But you start seeing that monster now starting to form. Now what happens if I have a monster that's sort of like human-like or animal-like with a body, like this guy right here? I'll call him the blue teddy bear. Well, you're also going to start with your rectangle slab, but you're going to actually twist it and turn it in half. We're going to take that half, we're going to wedge the clay like we always do, so we end up with that like rock looking shape again. But this time I'm going to work on the torso here. I'm going to make the body. Remember, this is a sculpture, you can see it from all sides. So I'm going to start rolling it with my hands here. And I'm trying to make this Tootsie Roll shape, if you want to call it. So I can press down on either side and then roll it again in my hands, almost like I'm making a snake. I could also roll it on the table, and that would give me my cylinder shape. Once I have my cylinder shape, I'm gonna core out the center so that when this starts to dry, it can dry quicker by coring it out. And we have that special tool to do that. Now I have that Tootsie Roll shape, that becomes the torso. Now I can work on the head. So that half of the piece of clay, I'm gonna rip in half again, and I'm starting to, again, form it, wedge it, get it into a sphere. Once I have that sphere, now I can score and slip this on, right, for the head, and then I can mold it how I need to and bring the head into the body. Now, how do I do the arms and the legs? Well, I have those leftover pieces from the rectangle I cut. I can twist and pull again, and if you can see, the arms and the legs are like cylinders, so just like I did before, press down on each side, kind of like making like a small toilet paper roll here. Could roll it in my hands, and then you can see that here's the arm starting to form, and then I can pinch the edges to round it off, right? And this would be your arm. How would I put the arm on? I would score and slip that on too. Now, the legs. If I try to make a leg and stand it up on the body, is this really going to hold? Not really, right? It's not going to be durable. So if your monster is standing up, you might have to make an adjustment and make a leg and have the monster sitting down. That's also a possibility. So just like we have here my little Kachina mud head that one of my students made years ago, similar kind of concept where you have the torso, that's the Tootsie Roll, the head, and then we have the legs and the arms, but again, they might have to sit rather than stand up because that would not hold. So think of that as a possibility to make the adjustments that you need to make. So once again, you might have to make your monster with head and body all one, starting with pinch pot. If not, you're doing the other technique, which is Tootsie Roll, sphere for the head, core out the bottom, then add on the limbs. Hope that helps. Have a great day. Bye.